That checks. I am too.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do our usual thing to let the attendees kind of get settled in here for a couple minutes.
These are I sent them to you electronically as well, meeting minutes for February
Thank you.
11th.
Seems like not a huge crowd here. We certainly had a large crowd yesterday, so maybe we are, wore them all out at the CPA public hearing.
Yeah. Hi there.
Yeah, can you ask them to, let me in?
They heard you. You're on speaker.
Yeah, I don't have my.
Okay,
Are you on the 10? I don't have her name.
You have a Zoom link
yes,
and you've activated it, huh?
yeah,
You're not showing as an attendee, so let's maybe send another link to Janice here.
Okay, did you hear that? Reggie's sending you
Yeah.
another link.
Okay. You must be on the wrong, you may be on the wrong Zoom meeting here. That's all I can think of here.
on the same link I'm always on.
Change it.
We'll try, I've just sent you a fresh link here, and perhaps you could log out of whatever you're in now and try the one I just emailed to you here.
Okay.
I'm glad you made me take the slide out.
I'm afraid it might be.
Recording in progress.
There we go. There's Janice in the attendee list there. Janice, you should hang up so we don't get feedback. And maybe Steve, you can promote him, Janice, to the panelist. Because I'm not a co-host here. You can make me a co-host and I can do it.
I just clicked on it. She's coming.
Here she comes. Okay. Janice, let's do a sound check on you. You're on mute right now.
Good evening, all.
There you go. Okay, I think we're ready to begin. 7:36 p.m. This is the March 16th, 2023 Needham Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. Their regular meeting, and their meeting is the Board of the High Rock Homes LLC. I'm going to begin by calling the roll. Reg Foster is here.
Eleanor Evans here.
Ed Scheidler is here.
Penny Kirk here.
Janice Bennett, remote. Yeah.
And Reg is wrote as well. And I have a little bit of feedback coming in by somebody's mic here. Just wanted to note.
Or something.
Yep, I just want to note for the record that this is a duly noticed and posted meeting of the Needham Housing Authority Board of Commissioners It was posted on March 10th, and I think there was an update on March 13th or 14th to the agenda. And we're meeting perhaps for the last time virtually in this fashion under the emergency order from Governor Baker dated March 31st, 2023 that allows us to do this. We will actually be talking at the end of the agenda about what's going to happen at the next meeting, barring any changes from from the general court here. So I'm going to start with chairman's announcements to start with, and the first announcement has to do with yours truly and why I am remote. My wife and my daughter and my sister-in-law and my other daughter all arrived back from a trip last Saturday about 10:30. And we all drove home in very close quarters in a car. And the next morning, they all woke up with sniffles and COVID. Several COVID tests later, my wife, the sister-in-law, and one of the two daughters were all infected with COVID. They brought it back,
good.
and I, was no avoiding it from my part. So we went into quarantine lockdown. For some reason, I have not come down with COVID, and neither has my second of my two daughters. My wife and number one daughter had symptoms and been feeling a little bit bad, like a regular cold, but nothing too horrible. There are no big challenges going on health-wise. And I tested now all week as negative, but according to CDC guidelines, I should keep isolating myself, particularly if I'm around potentially high-risk individuals, but really any individuals, even though I don't have any symptoms, I'm not infected, and I'm okay. So I'm going to try to do this meeting today by remote. So interesting. I don't know why I didn't get infected, but it's just what happened here. So we'll start with resident comment. I don't see the president of our Cooksbridge Tennis Association with us. Is there any resident comment from any other residents that are in the room or online? If you're online, please raise your hand. I don't hear or see not any, so I guess we'll move on to the regular agenda. So we'll do our routine first agenda items here. Number A1, we have in our packet on page 25, the NHA bill schedule and check warrant totaling $353,548.27. Do we have any questions from any of the commissioners on that warrant?
No.
Don't hear any, so I will make a motion that we approve the warrant as listed in our packet. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Penny. Hearing no further discussion, I have to call the roll every time, so I'm going to call the roll. Let's do the roll. Since I'm not present in the room, let's do the roll virtually first, and then the commissioners who are present last here, just to have a routine that we set up. So I will go ahead and vote first. I vote aye.
Janice Bent votes aye.
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Penny Kirk votes aye.
And that is unanimous. I'll now proceed to agenda item A2, the High Rock Homes LLC bill schedule and check warrant for $27,293.40, starting on page 49 of your board packet. Are there any comments or questions for our executive directors that are here tonight? Hearing none, I will call the roll. I will make a motion that we pass the bill check warrant as listed in our packet. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Penny Kirk. Hearing no further discussion, we'll call the roll. Reg Foster votes aye.
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Ed Scheidler
Janice
votes aye.
Bennett votes aye.
Penny Kirk votes aye.
I have 5 ayes there. It carries unanimously 5-0. The third, next item is agenda item B2. I'm going to take that out of order, which is the minutes for the February 16th, 2023 regular board meeting of the NHA Board and the HRH LLC Board. And I should also mention that this also served as the interview meeting for our new acting and hopefully soon to be future executive director, Cheryl Gosman. Any comments or corrections on those minutes, which I want to just thank Penny Kirk for taking those minutes, and also the lengthy addendum to the minutes that serves as a record that we did send into DHCD. So thank you, Penny. Any other comments or? Yes, sir.
I just want to apologize. In your packet, you received 2 copies of the interview. Because if it's done electronically, I put the file in twice, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
So I got a few extra pages. It's
Right.
worth listening to Cheryl twice.
Well, just in case we didn't read it the first time, we had a chance to read it the second time here. We were all present for that interview, so I think we can all remember it as well. Anyway,
I
thank
guess
you.
for one thing, so on when it says residents participating in Cheryl Gosman interview, aren't some people of the people there listed staff? So should it say like residents and others participating or something?
Good point. I remember thinking that at one point as we were trying to pull everything together. I think there's at least one staff member that had participated. So we can correct that caption.
Yeah, it could just say residents and others or.
Yeah. Any other corrections? All right.
We've got a resident here who can't get on but wants to get on, Ross Donald. He's on?
No,
Calcana also.
I have 2 other residents on here. I don't
Controls
have
for
one.
passcode. I
If you
don't
click on
know
the
whether-
link,
Maybe you can send out the link again to the whoever's
Kalpana Shah and Ross Donald.
yeah. Who, Kalpana and Ross? I can send them. I'll do that. I know how to do that pretty quickly.
They're just sending you both the link.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Was.
Is that a sneeze? Sorry.
I don't think this does it. Link is a panelist here, but we'll see here. All right. We are now at B1. Cheryl, do we have an update on those the minutes of the meeting on February 11th, which took extra long to do because we're trying to get them accurate because it was our decision about repositioning here.
Yes, Reg, I sent them out electronically and we have hard copies here as well.
Okay, I haven't been able to check email. So nobody's had a chance to look at these. We sent them for an extra trip to Cambridge Housing Authority for them to review the accuracy of the discussion and various things, and we did actually get some comments back this afternoon. I would propose, if everybody's okay, that we I don't think there's any urgent reason to do anything other than to wait to our April meeting and approve the minutes at that time. Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Chairman,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, we didn't record a vote on the first set of minutes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's hard to do this remotely, I gotta say. All right. So I made a motion to. That's right. I got interject. Eleanor mentioned just as I was going to call the vote. That's what happened here. So we got the correction. So I'm going to call the roll. for the minutes with the correction that Eleanor suggested. And Reg Foster votes aye.
Janice
Eleanor-
Bennett votes aye.
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Is
Red
Eleanor
Charles.
remote?
Yeah, remote first, in-person second.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Penny
So,
Fair votes aye.
all right, we got 5 ayes sort of out of that. So that passes 5-0 here.
I have a question.
Yes, sir, ma'am. Yes,
Is Eleanor also remote?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's why I was going second. I thought she was present. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, that's okay. It's fine. It was
Okay, I
moving,
know
it
my
was moving
place
things
now.
along. We were moving things along quickly. That's good.
Okay, me first, Eleanor second, you third,
Okay,
Penny fourth, and Ed fifth. How's that? And then we'll get the rhythm going here. Okay, great. Have we got our attendees in? Yes, we do have some attendees. Great. So let's backtrack a little bit. Let me see what we got to work here. Attendees, we have gone, but we have Ross Donald with us, Richard Day with us, and Paula Berry with us. I don't see Kalpana yet. We have gone past resident comment. Ross, do you have a comment you want to make? And otherwise, we're going to keep proceeding to agenda item C in the agenda here. If you do, please raise your hand.
So Paul and Richard were on during they came on early.
Yes, I realize that. Yep. Okay, so moving along, we are at the executive director's report. So let me turn it over to Steve and Cheryl here. Can you take it away?
I'm going to go up first just because I wanted to thank the board for your support and well wishes over the last month. My little medical soiree, and I appreciate the concern and the generosity that you showed. And I'm back on a very part-time basis at this point. Well, today was full day, but I do appreciate everything that was I received. Good wishes, and I'm on the mend. Just getting old.
Glad to see you on your feet there.
Yes.
Barely.
So number C1, monthly financial report, page 53.
Yeah. There's nothing to add. Steve, you put that together. Do you want to comment on
The first is the accountant's report.
it? Okay.
It's the first month of the year, so there's really not anything notable. I don't know if you have any questions, but as I said, it's the first month of our fiscal year, so the budget hasn't even been actually entered onto the worksheets because we're waiting approval by the HCD. So we're based on last year's numbers. And based on those numbers and having gone 1 month, we're in great shape. But,
Good to know. Okay, if there are no further comments, let's go to C2. This is the monthly management report, and a corrected version was sent out by Steve when it was discovered the wrong version was in the original packet that went out here. Steve, is there anything you want to, or Cheryl want to call to our attention? Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, Ed.
Steve, I guess I can ask you. You have 0 open on work orders. And it would seem to me that if you got work orders that came in the last few days of the month, they'd carry over. So they'd show as open.
most of our work orders are done the day they come in. The call in, when people call in, so that's not unusual, and this report is printed after the end of the month, so if they got entered on the 1st or 2nd, because you put in the date that it was completed, it would have out, so.
All right.
That shows, and I don't do that, that's our staff that does that, and it shows that they are not only conscientious, but up to date on that, so. If there was a 1 or 2, I'd be asking the question, what happened here? But
Well, I would understand carryover if it comes in.
I would too, yeah, if it's
Last
something,
day.
and it was something that couldn't get done in 1 day, but most of our work orders are done the same day.
I have a
Okay,
question.
go ahead, Penny.
Not sure that this is the right time to ask this question, but I'd like to know what the status is on the cameras.
Which ones?
For here,
The cameras that are supposed to be placed outside and.
down here at Cook's Bridge, so we're
Yeah.
still waiting.
Well, I'm really thinking about Linden because I know of a situation there.
Yeah, it's, they're still not completed because they had we have moved along, so there are now 4 Wi-Fi, correct me, Charlie.
It sounds right, but we're we're gonna have to call them back out. We still don't have all the cameras up and working,
We have a number of them, but we don't
but not
have
all of
every
them were.
plugin
Yeah.
coming in yet.
It's been, what, 3
Way
months
too
at
long.
least?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't for them in the first place, but now I'm wondering if you're gonna pay for it and get them, you should have them up and running.
Yeah, it's,
And there is a situation on Linden Street that is serious, I think, and might be able to be addressed if we had the cameras.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them a call and find
it
out
costs more.
where we're at in that process. I'll touch base with Gary as well. I didn't realize until, looking on my computer that I did not have access to all of the quadrants, so. It just, they've been out here recently doing some work with Comcast. But I thought that they were done. So I will give them a call and touch base with Gary as well, and I'll give you, offline, I'll give you an update on where we're at with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Penny, I'll just let you know that was agenda item F3 we just did. We were going to get there, okay? So let's go C3, certification of 2022 year-end reports to DHCD. Cheryl or Steve?
The certifications,
What did you go to?
certification of the report.
Are you-
Oh, we're still on the monthly director's report. And we're at certification of 2022 year-end reports.
I'm
for
sorry, I
DHCD.
haven't-
Yeah,
I have the original.
Yeah.
So, what happens is the end of the year reports, come out and, they're provided to us by our accountant. And they get uploaded to DHCD, but there are 3 pages of certification which are included, in the packet. Hold on here, what
Wages?
I'm sorry.
I don't recollect seeing those reports in the packet there, Steve.
So the 3 certifications, or 2 certifications actually, are certification of compliance with notification procedures for federal and state lead paint laws. We sign these every year. And what that says is that we certify that when residents move in, particularly they are issued paper that tells them of their rights under known lead paint issues, both federal and state, EPA regulations, and the Mass Department Division of Occupational Safety on de-leading. This has been on now for at least 10 years. Every year we have to certify that. And that requires signatures by all members on that document.
So what Steve says is, of course, we all know to be true because it happens each year. I guess we don't, with the 3 out of the 5 commissioners remote, we're not going to get signatures tonight. Does that require a board vote to sign the?
Yes.
And then our board members, since we've all seen these reports, they're routine every year. Are you comfortable voting to approve the signature of these reports, subject to looking at them when I guess they have to be circulated around to the commissioners that are not physically present tonight for signature.
They are going for a handout, that's right.
They were sent out to us via email.
Oh, were they?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So let me, a little background here, because this kind of delves into what I spoke about. These are, we can't do this, we usually would do this in the February board meeting. I need them would because it's the month after, the second month after you close your fiscal year. So the email, that came out from our accountant came out February 5th. And I apologize, he sent it to me, and I was in the hospital at that point. So it would have been scheduled for this February meeting. When this came to light the last week in February, I did email the HCD explaining my situation and asking for forgiveness so we could do it this month. This is an annual thing, and to be very honest with you, I can't blame anybody except my illness, because Cheryl hasn't been here the full cycle of the year, wouldn't have seen these last year. It would have been done before she even started.
It's
So
true.
it's not like it was a drop, it was just, you can't know what you don't know, so, and so that's why this occurred. I did have printed, copies to hand out tonight, so, if I think we mailed them out, but if you didn't get that email.
You got it, yeah,
That says you got it, so,
okay.
Well, I'm certainly guilty of having way too many NHA emails on other subjects for the last few weeks here, so I could easily have missed it. I'm just trying to see, get the sense of the commissioner, whether, there are two alternatives. We can pass a resolution tonight, subject to everybody looking at it and signing it, the same version as last year, or we can schedule a special board meeting with 2+ days notice to sign it, to pass the resolution at that point. But, it's a little bit of a snafu that was caused by Steve's unfortunate illness here.
So I just have a question. So I see the certification form, but then and I see the top 5 compensation form it's referring to, but then are the certification of year-end financials, are the year-end financial statements and tenant accounts receivables data, is that in there too, in the email too?
I don't know if I put that in the email, those would be in the year-end reports that we should have had last month.
I saw the salary.
The salary,
What was the other?
arrearage.
Yeah, the one I don't see here is where'd it go?
The arrears,
The year-end financial statements and the tenants accounts receivables data.
Yes, that's what we have that. That was sent out.
there was something, right?
I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't sent out. Was it sent out with the recent emails or in a past, or if somebody has that handy and can send it around, then I would be happy doing a vote or whatever on that.
The other thing on I believe it's page 77 or so, you do have the account aging in the.
Okay, yeah, I thought I saw something about that in there.
75, essentially 75, which would be similar numbers, it's only been a month since, so.
More. Because I wanted to comment, but I just didn't understand why we had to pick them. Look at the numbers.
Yeah, that's 73, 75. Oh, because that's done automatically. It's
I guess on page 73, it's Cambridge and London Street report. Is the only one that gets entered up there for the state. So this is a little bit newer, it says on March 9th, but the total arrearage for state housing was, the total for 152 units is 5,753.
I think that's a fantastic record.
It's a good number, which is, yeah, but they're 100%. shouldn't be.
You are the numbers, man.
Yeah, who's in charge of collecting rent? Is that Neta?
Nada,
Nada does a great
Good
job.
job,
collecting
Nada.
rents.
good job.
Thank you. I don't know for what I missed it.
Don't jinx her, because these things go up and down. It's not necessarily, don't jinx her here now, you know. Somebody gets into trouble, you know, it's these things have a lot of complicated reasons for being good or not so good here. So I'm just trying to move things along. Is any board member uncomfortable with doing a resolution tonight? At which point, I think even one person being uncomfortable, we should schedule a special meeting here, recognizing that we're already a little bit late getting these in here.
Comfortable.
I'm good.
I'm fine.
All right. So does somebody want to make a resolution to authorize the board to sign all these certifications?
I so move.
Okay, and a second? And is there any further discussion? And hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Reg Foster votes aye.
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Janice Penn votes aye.
Signature.
Penny Kirk votes aye.
And Shidler votes aye.
There we go. Okay. That'll save us about 10 minutes by the end of the meeting here.
I just have a question about the signing of the form, like since we're not all there, can we sign it in counterparts? And if so, then, and can we, do you need our original, I mean, our wet, like, do you need the hard copy with the wet signature back? Or, yeah,
We do this year, yeah, they insist on it this year. So we'll have Penny and Ed signing now. What we'd like to do is drop it off and, you know, for, I mean, Reg will stop by maybe tomorrow and get you to sign it and stay away from you. And
Yeah.
put it back outside. Then we can drop it off to you, and if you put it back out, or we can pick it up, or if there's a good time to meet you, that we can do that too. But we can drop it and just have it signed, and if you leave it back outside for us, we can do that. Janice, can you get Janice's signature?
No. Janice, you could come into the office.
Well,
Yeah, I
or can you stop by with on the way just after we finish the meeting? You could get it on the way out the door just now here. So anyway, let's move on. I'm sure we'll all figure out the logistics here. Let's go on to C5, public participation at board meeting policies. That's on page let's see, 79. That's you, Cheryl, or Steve here.
I agree.
Yes, so.
Oh, put this back in board meeting.
Yeah.
Did you do the new?
C5 is something different, like director of maintenance.
Oh, so that's the guidelines, what you're looking at
It's on
first
page
on
79.
79? Here's the guidelines, and then on the back of that is the actual policy.
That's right. So policies on page 80 and the sort of transmitter memos 79 here.
Yeah. So this actually came before you in September, I think it was. I was hoping that we could look at it tonight again and vote and sign the policy, and I would upload it to our website and have it posted in the community rooms and put it in our policy book. So this is one of many policies that will come before the board. This is an easy one, the baby one. And again, you looked at it in September. This is just a review so that I can have a signed copy for my policy book and to upload to the website. Any questions?
We've already voted on this site, right? So
There's a little change on the second page. We took out the word to seek out the expert it looks like a typo, to seek out the expert, their issue and concerns with, we took that out. And now it reads, a long sentence. The NHA Board of Commissioners encourages residents and members of the public to bring their issues and concerns on matters relative to the overall operation of the agency, to request an appointment with the executive director of the Needham Housing Authority, and to reach out to their local tenant organization with questions, period. So the sentence in between with and the executive director has been removed. In the last sentence, residents and members of the public are encouraged to ask questions have been removed.
So the reason we removed it, it talked about residents going directly to the board. And in the case of the director or the office coming down with a decision that the residents don't like, then it would enter the grievance procedure. So it would be back to the board, it could be back to the board at some point. So it's, you know, so you can't really judge it twice. It has to be kind of following the process. That's why it's not there. But it doesn't stop it from going to the board. It just, you got to do this step first. And then if you still don't like the answer, you file a grievance, and the grievance procedure is in their lease, and it's part of the HCD regulation. So we're just following the proper order.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners?
I just have two kind of wordsmithing things. So on the first page, at the end of public comment period, it says these matters primarily include a and so I think we should just take that out if we're not going to list. I mean, so that we have to list what those matters are.
Yeah.
And then in the section that you were talking about before, the last part about communication between the ED. Well, actually, okay, so first of all, it seems like it says it may be the heading, because it seems like this is saying, okay, the NHA Board of Commissioners encourages residents and members of the public to, and maybe it should say to bring their issues and concerns on matters relative to the overall operation of the agency, and just say to the executive director instead of to request an appointment. Because I mean, they could do so either through email or phone or whatever. So I would just take out to request an appointment with. So it's to bring their concerns, blah, 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 to the executive director, and take out request an appointment with. And then I wonder if the heading for that section, it sort of sounds like it's talking about communication between the ED and the tenant organization, but what it really is communicating, like residents and members of the public communicating concerns to the ED, and in the case of residents, their tenant organization. So maybe the heading needs to be changed there. Or maybe just say communication with the NHA executive director and the local tenant organization.
I think those are great comments. Why don't we, if you don't mind, we could remove it and come back next month with a cleaned up version. Is that, rather than try to wordsmith it anymore here?
I would be in favor of doing that. Yeah, I think it's that would be good. And we don't have a huge problem burning out of control right now, so I don't think the world is going to come to the end. We take one more meeting cycle to do that.
Agreed.
Okay, and everybody can anybody who has any other wordsmithing they notice, please get it to Cheryl, and we can get it taken care of without having to do it real time during the next meeting if there's something else that comes up here. Okay, or so you see something else here. Okay, we are now at C6, Charles River Center purchase press release.
Oh, sorry, Rich, can I just interrupt? Did we do C4?
Did I? Yes, we did. C4 is what we just talked about. That's what we were just talking about.
No, that was public participation.
You know, we didn't. You're right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Page 105. I'm trying to check these off as we go along here. So I should probably take that one. Is that okay, Cheryl, Steve?
Yes, please.
The approval of the opera
Absolutely.
grant?
No, the public participation at public meetings. Remote.
So just by way of a little bit of background here, the board passed this, I think, a year ago. This is the Board of the Select Board. When we thought this was all going to come to an end a year ago, and then it was extended for another year by emergency order, and we're now at that point again where it's expiring. So I'm just going to point out some of the highlights. If we are on page 105, on the first page of the transmittal memo, those 3 bullets and that chart, basically it says there's, all meetings in Needham after March 31st must have an in-person option for the public to attend, but it also goes on to say that board members have to be attending in person. We'll get to that in a minute. And that board and committee members can only participate remotely if approved by the board chair, and in a manner consistent with the member remote participation in public meetings policy, which we'll get to in a moment. That public meetings cannot be only remote. They must have a in-person component. And then there's a scenario table. I don't find this tremendously, it clarifies what they're doing by saying, here are 5 different scenarios, what you can and can't do after March 31st. And then if you turn to the next, the policy for member remote participation that starts on page 107. The key things to look at is you go to page 108, and if you look at section 3 that starts more or less in the middle, 3.2 says a quorum of the board must be physically present. And so just use tonight's meeting as an example, we wouldn't be eligible to have a meeting because 3 out of the 5 board members are not physically present. I'm not endorsing or criticizing this. I'm just pointing out what it says here. In this particular case, we would not be, for some reason, we would not have, the board would not be able to have a meeting. And we'd have to reschedule, I guess is what they're saying. And then 3.3 says the chair, whoever is chairing the meeting has to be physically present. So I couldn't do what I'm doing right now tonight. Eleanor would have to be the chair, but of course, Eleanor is not physically present because she has a sniffles as well. So I guess we can't have a meeting again for the second reason here. And then section 4, there are 4 permissible reasons that a board member or committee member can participate remotely. And it says right in the middle of that first paragraph that the chair must or should interpret these rules in a strict fashion, no exceptions. So the 4 bullets that starting, 2 of them starting at the bottom of the page are the 4 reasons. So you can do it for personal or family illness or disability, family or other emergency, a military service, or geographic distance. I don't know exactly what geographic distance means. I guess if you're on vacation in Ireland, just to pick a recent example, the geographic distance. But I'm not sure that's what they intended here. I'm not sure geographic distance is that I got stuck at the office or the MBA commuter rail is down or not. But anyway, that's what it says. And it goes on to say, just below those last 2 bullets on the top of page 109, and no member can do remote participation more than 25% of the time over a calendar year, except in extraordinary circumstances. And then down in section 6 procedures, 6.1, it says if a member of the public body who needs or wishes to participate remotely has to check in with the chair at least 48 hours prior to the meeting, and the chair then treats the request in a strict fashion. So I don't know if we need the screen share for this here.
I just put it up there, except we have apparently a couple of versions of the agenda. Because what we're talking about was actually listed under new business in the final version that went out. So I
Oh,
just
you're
wanted-
right. So you're right, because you did send out a new agenda, and that's why but I'm using the agenda that you sent around here.
There's a couple of things under the director's report that we have to go back to, so.
We need it, yeah, but oh, you're right. So Eleanor, you got me off track because you got me looking at the agenda that's in the packet instead of the agenda that I was using up until this moment here. But I know it's the way I see this, Steve, C4 on the one that you sent around says remote participation information, page 105.
Yeah, the one I pulled out of Steve's email. The
Yes.
agenda. Yeah.
Right.
It's
I didn't-
listed twice on the agenda. It's listed on page 2 under C, and it's also listed under new business.
Okay.
Ah, I see. Okay.
So that's why I was trying to do this by, well, maybe this is the reason why we have to all meet in person.
Yeah.
I don't know. Steve, let's just go ahead and wrap this one up here, okay, if we can.
That's fine, okay.
Yeah, and I think, again, this is leaving out, the law of unintended consequences, examples I was sort of enumerating. I think it's the sense of the leadership in our town government that we need to all, return to in-person meeting as board members, and B, to continue to make the hybrid meeting format available, not so that board members can attend remotely so much as to make sure it's more convenient for the public to attend. Do you mind unscreen sharing there, Steve, so we can look and see each other? Any comments or thoughts that anybody wants to voice at this point?
I'd like to just point out, I guess it's obvious, but since you have what I call a family illness, and Eleanor has a suspicion of possibly a situation, wouldn't that allow us to have this meeting in the
Well,
format
you
that-
could if somebody else chairs the meeting, I guess.
Well, no, there also has to be a third person, a third commissioner present in person, because there has to be a quorum present in person.
So the illness doesn't exclude that.
No, I think that's even true. But I think that the illness or whatever, family emergency.
You
that's-
always have to have a quorum
Yeah,
present.
so right. And so those are the reasons why in our case, only one person at a time one commissioner at a time could be remote. But those are the reasons why one could be remote. But if you had, in our case, we could have two remote commissioners in our case, but
But seriously, I think, boards will start using these rules, and my guess is we'll see some tweaks come out. The last Conservation Commission meeting was that they've never stopped meeting completely remotely. And that's the same thing for the Board of Health. So, I think there will be a raft of circumstances that such as we're talking about. And I would propose that we do our best to comply and see what happens.
Yeah, okay.
I just wanted to, I've been giving everybody a heads up the last couple meetings, last couple months worth of meetings, and I wanted to just take 5 minutes to go through the fine print, so to speak, and you can read it at your leisure again. But I think the main message, the big takeaway is all board members need to be back meeting in person. And we have to have a quorum of in-person board members, or we have to reschedule the meeting. Those are kind of my big two takeaways here. Any other comments, or shall we move along?
Move on.
All right. So I'm looking at both agendas at the same time. My new agenda says item C6 is the Charles River Center press release. The old
I
agenda,
thought it was C5, Director of
Well, you've got
Maintenance.
the old.
that's the old one.
Oh, okay. Oh, well.
So, but it's down the road here, so we'll get to it here. So sorry about the confusion here. I don't think we had the press release in our packet, but it was emailed around, I believe, to everybody. And did you have any comment about that, Steve? Or because it wasn't in the old agenda and is in the new agenda here.
So with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, that was in your draft agenda and I think you removed it, so I took it off there.
Okay.
But just for informational purposes, I know we had talked about it at some point about potentially looking at it ourselves, and it just seemed to be, I think it's good news that the Charles River Workshop, Charles River Center got it, because it's in their neighborhood and they certainly serve a desiring and an important residents, and we wish them the best. That's all I just kind of thought we should send that around. They sent it to us, so.
I guess one more thing to say is at one point we had thought that maybe we would partner with them after they acquired the property, and we might be able to rent it from them for a long enough period of time, 10, 15, 20 years, and then refurbish those units to be family housing units, because they were in quite good shape when we took a look at them. They still needed a fair amount of, money to renovate them, but there's been no sign of any interest in doing that on the part of the Charles River Center. So I think that idea that we were exploring about this time last year is probably not going to happen. And that would be the other reason, so just to mention it tonight at the board, for those of you who have remember those discussions a year and a half ago here. Okay, Steve, would you like to maybe take over going through this agenda?
I could.
Because obviously we have some version confusion here.
Yeah. So what I have under number 4 would be the approval of the ARPA grant agreement. And this is a correction of the previous contract. This is ARPA money coming from DHCD. It's targeted money. It's kind of I don't want to say it's a mystery, but I believe that this money is geared towards replacing the fire. This is a fire safety issue, and I think all housing authorities were issued this grant to use for replacement of fire alarm systems throughout the units. Now, so they were required to get this signed and to them. So the chairman did sign it because they were under their gun, or a gun there for getting the ARPA money under obligation. I have a call into one of the people at DHCD who contacted me this week about the fire alarm situation, because I think we need to talk about it in terms of what we're looking to do with London Chambers. I'm not sure that it is prudent to spend this kind of money to put in a new fire alarm, may not only be there for a couple of years, so we need to talk to them about it. But this was not driven by us at all, this was driven by the HCD as a formula funding under the ARPA, and every housing authority got a formula amount. So I have not heard back the details of it yet, and as soon as I do, we'll send something out to you. Immediately let you know. But we did have to sign it to help them out so they can obligate the funding. And so
Do you need a vote authorizing me to sign it?
I think that would be helpful. It's the corrected amount. We did do this back in the fall, but it was a different amount. It was less. So this is just authorizing the chairman to sign the amended amount of the ARPA contract for financial assistance from DHCD.
Okay,
So we vote on it?
any questions for Steve? Hearing none, yes, Eleanor, you have something?
Oh, well, I'm just a little confused what the different amount is. I'm seeing the contract from the fall with the $372,075, and what's the amount, the different amount?
I'm sorry, you're right. And the amount, was another one in the fall for 200, I believe 85,000, something different. I'm sorry, Ellen, you're right. This was sent back because of an error in an address. And again, it's not our address, because it was sent back to everybody.
Is this the contract on page 83 in the packet?
Yes,
So I guess I'm just saying I'm not clear. So that was the contract that was issued in the fall. Oh, I see. Now I'm seeing the 3/10/23 sign thing from DHCD. Oh wait, let me see here. Okay. No, I mean, it looks like the same amount on page 84 that was signed. Anyway, whatever. I mean, I guess.
there's something, there's an error that in their filing, and it's on page 85, and the letter from Fatima talks about how the funds are considered non-discretionary because they were designated by the state. But there was something in the documentation, I thought it was the offer, you're right, it's not.
So
had to
it
be
was,
correct.
so there was something that wasn't correct in the contract that they sent us in the fall that they now asked us to correct. And so it's been signed and we're just authorizing what the correction is, and it doesn't seem to be the amount.
Right, you're right. I'm sorry. Thank you. for that.
It's weird
Mhm.
because it says the thing signed in March says new contract, not contract amendment, but anyway.
Good point, Eleanor.
Yeah. You know, we make enough of mistakes on our own. This is DHCD making a mistake that we have to follow. They're telling us we have to do to correct their mistake. Or to, again, reauthorize our amount, but it's something that happened, whether it's a mistake or just a misunderstanding what they had to file. It really doesn't explain it. But it was rush, we had to get this in. They literally sent it out, I think, 2 days before the deadline, because they were on the deadline of getting it obligated. 310.
So, Eleanor, are you comfortable with proceeding with the board authorization?
I mean, I guess so. I just am not really clear what the change is, even from reading their letter. It's not clear to me what. Let me just see here. No, wait, so that was from October. I mean, I know that I'm not thinking that we're going to change whatever it is that we're approving, but I just am not clear what
The changes, I don't see it either.
And it doesn't,
And Steve, what are we using these funds for?
So the original plan for these targeted funds was to, we have a state capital formula funding. And the original, what we talked about in the fall, what they talked to us about was, this was money that was gonna be plugged into that system for everybody, for all the housing authorities and the formula, and that would allow us to extend our funding out a few years, so that this would kind of, if we had, 30,000 here, and they put in 30,000 and pumped it up. I don't know if you, I'm sorry, 30,000 here, they replaced that 30,000, so it pumps out 30,000 up to future years. That was what we were told was happening, and that they were taking advantage of our money that the state had. It says it's all targeted, but we have a multi-year plan, so I'm not sure where they're targeting. This does not go into our development program. This is, the 5-year plan that we have with the state for upgrades at Edmond and Chambers.
I think we better revisit this.
Well, here's the situation. I signed it because I was informed that if we didn't get it in right away, like tomorrow, then we would lose the money altogether. So I said, okay, fine. If it has errors on it, I'm happy to be out here, in that position. And if I've made a mistake, that's fine. We don't need to do a board resolution right now. If you do want to ask Steve and Cheryl to clarify the murkiness of this, we can always, if we need to, we can always have a quick special board meeting to authorize what I've already done.
I'm fine. I guess, yeah, I'm not against whatever it is, but I just want to understand whatever it is. And,
Same here.
and, I guess that if DHCD isn't asking us to submit evidence of board approval, immediately, if it could wait till next month, then we could do it. I'm fine doing it next month. And I don't doubt that we will unanimously ratify it, but I just want to understand what it is.
So Steve or Cheryl, can we proceed on the basis maybe that you could get some more clarification? You can even get some clarification out in the next couple of days.
And you don't have to tell DHCD, oh, our board wouldn't ratify this. You could just maybe just say that our board was looking for a little clarification or something.
We'll take care of that.
I've got to say, in the many years now, it's getting to be many years I've been doing this particular gig as a commissioner. This is not the first time that, sort of semi-incomprehensible things come our direction here. So, but let's proceed on that basis. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we got two agendas we're working with that were both posted at one time or another. Go ahead, Steve. What's next on what you think our agenda is?
I had it included in your packet, the ad that went out for our director of maintenance and modernization. I guess and the job description. It is out in the newspaper. We do have a few applicants in now, and the deadline is next week. So we'll see how we'll do for it. Just to keep you informed. The next item I have is the federal capital fund 5-year plan approval. This is the end of our 45-day comment period. We had a meeting in January with residents on the 5-year plan, and we actually have 2 separate motions here tonight for you. Reg is going to screen share one of them, but we have significant change in our 2020 plan.
You wanted me to put up that document you just sent me here?
Yes, please.
this it? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, that's it there.
And-
But the first item, Cheryl.
Oh, yeah.
speak to that?
I'm on the first page now.
But that's not what we're talking about. There's a page that didn't go out with that. It's a significant amendment to the 2020 capital fund, which is not in the 5-year plan because it's past the 5 years.
Okay,
Right,
So it's,
and I'm sorry. Oh. Do you guys have this? No, no.
Thank you.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
And we'll leave one for you, Carol, if you want one. And this first page. Stand on this page, please. Look at this. That one, right?
Yeah. that's-
Yeah.
Sorry. that's okay, I didn't get that.
Yeah, so this one, this
so
is.
we're not looking at anything here on our end here remotely. What are you referring to here?
So the 2020 capital plan had a number of items on it. The total amount that was budgeted was $328,927. Now, this is the capital fund for the federal site. It had several items on it that were not have not been done, and in our looking at it, we're trying to pull some money out of our capital fund to help with the repositioning of Brooks Bridge and Seabed's Way. So we've made an adjustment in 2020 and removed the following items. One is the environmental review. It was under 2,000, office expansion for 5,000. Neither one of those were expended. And there's, at this point, we don't need the environmental review because there's so much going on with our PRI effort that would be taken care of. We didn't use the office expansion money. We had tree trimming for $10,000. Playground equipment repair and replacement for $25,000. Again, that will go under our PRI renovation and update. Energy audit, again, it's been being done through our other PRI items. We had a replace sheds placeholder for only $1,000. That was nothing was done there. The actual estimated cost at that point was upwards of $90,000 to $100,000. We had $25,000 for landscaping. Again, that will be done under our PRI and our repositioning. And I replace exterior light poles and fixtures for 28. So removing those items allowed us to put in a repositioning.
That's it, Rich.
Yeah, that's I didn't know why you wanted me to stop screen sharing here, so that's why.
I'm sorry, I didn't know it made it in there. I'm sorry, my bad. So
All
there
right.
it is. So that allows us to request from HUD approval of a significant change in that year's plan to allow us to use the $106,000 for repositioning preparation. And that money could get obligated quite quickly. This fiscal year capital plan would have originally, obligation would have ended in March of this year, but it was extended because of COVID. So it's extended till March of 2024. So that takes a separate vote, a separate motion, because it is a significant amendment, over 10% of the plan for that year.
Yeah, this is, these items, these work activity items had been approved in the previous 5-year plan. And because we're going to change the previous five-year plan, it requires a vote of the board, and we will submit that to HUD to change this, these activities. And it amends the 2020 capital fund program, plan. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So we don't need it basically And we can, why, I think the other thing is that some of the funding for doing the seabeds and Cook pre-development work, which is costing out at about $1.1 million, is going to be covered by a CPA funding grant of $242,000, which is working its way through the process, and hopefully will get approved by town meeting. Those of you who were at the public hearing yesterday, saw that presented, and there's generally good support for that that's been expressed by both the other CPC members and also the finance committee that we presented to last week on March 8th. But that leaves about $900,000 of pre-development expenses for proceeding with the seabeds and Cook modernization that we have to find from other funding sources. And so the context for this is the Cheryl and Steve have been going through our existing capital funding budget resources that have not been appropriate spent on anything, seeing if there's some that can be freed up. Is that a fair statement there, Steve?
That is correct, absolutely.
And sorry for the confusion, because I did have the right document, but the wrong page here. And again, so those yellow items add up to 106,000. And what I guess the team, this has also been reviewed with the Cambridge Housing Authority as a legitimate thing to do. So the team that's been working on the PRI initiative to modernize seabeds and Cook, requesting the board to consider repurposing these $106,000 worth of items, and that would be formally submitted to HUD and repurposed in the official plan for the purposes of supporting the modernization and redevelopment of Cooks and seabeds, as we've been discussing now for more than a year. Any questions?
Well,
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
We the parking lot here where I live is in dire straits of tree trimming. They haven't been touched in 25 years, except for where one spot where the lighting is. And they cover 3/4 of the parking lot stretched over the fence from Wellesley. It's getting ridiculous. So, that's my only gripe, but I'm a resident, so.
It's not a gripe, it's a fair comment. Is that something we should consider not repurposing? I wouldn't look at that as a gripe.
Well, I was lucky enough to be at a doctor's appointment when one of the larger tree branches fell over, and I wasn't there. So, and there's a few that need to be looked at, seriously looked at.
Okay.
And
Any thoughts on that, Cheryl or Steve?
Yes. You want to go? You want me to go?
You can go ahead.
Yeah, so repaving is a capital fund program that we are procuring.
Trees,
Are you talking about the trees, Shannon?
Tree trimming.
tree trimming.
Tree trimming? I'm sorry.
Yep. Over the fence, yeah. The ones that
Okay.
are coming out into the pot, they haven't been touched in 25 years, and they're all oaks, and there's a ridiculous amount of leaves.
Okay. Are you suggesting that we,
What I would say, Janice, is we can do much of that through our operating budget, and it should have been done through the operating budget. It's really not a capital expense. There's a lot of stuff on here that wouldn't necessarily be that. I would like to the opportunity to come down and talk to you, and so we can see what you're talking about. We'll get that online to get it safe. It's gotta be safe.
I'm
And have trees
looking at a
falling.
tree trimming. It's right here, tree trimming, $10,000.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with putting that together at the time. My tree trimming would normally go through an operating budget, and we can certainly still do it that way, and should do it, because it's really more of a health and safety issue. So, the other thing, I could suggest is, in the 2021 year, and we can change this because this is the public meeting of, we have, $10,000 for shed replacements, and we can actually move that, change that to, tree trimming.
Tree trimming, yeah,
So the 10,000 is still there, but it's in, it's in the next year's funding.
Yep.
And I would suggest that's the way to handle that, and it needs to get done. I don't disagree with that at all. I'm not aware that the tree's falling down there, so, you know, we can't have people getting hurt or cars getting damaged, so.
yeah, I mean, quite honestly, I'm gonna correct. Those funds have been obligated because of the roofs, for Captain Robert Cook Drive, the 2021 grant. But as Steve mentioned, we can take care of the tree trimming expenses out of the operating budget. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll hold you to that.
thank you, please.
So,
I'm glad it came up. That's not a thing.
I think it's not a gripe at all. I totally agree. So, listen, I'm just thinking, do we want to go through the entire proposal and then come back and do the votes that we need to do?
Well, the 2020 is one separate vote. That's why.
Okay, I realize. But you're going to ask for 3 votes, right?
Well, the first vote we would ask for is the approval of the significant amendment to the 2020 capital fund program.
Which is what we're talking about right now, right?
Yeah, that's the one that stands alone and is.
Where it says 2020 up here at the top here. Yeah, I'm going to just try to highlight it for everybody here. Okay, any other questions on this one here? Okay, I guess since I'm sort of leading the PRI effort here, I will make a motion that we authorize our executive staff to apply for repurposing the $106,000 worth of items that are highlighted in yellow, as described, as previously described, for the purposes of supporting the preservation and redevelopment of Captain Robert Cook. Yes, Cheryl.
I just will ask that we will, that you move to significantly amend the 2020 capital fund grant to do exactly what you just said. So we're going to just insert the words,
Yeah,
not repurpose, but significantly amend.
that's right, in the wording that you just said. So I make that motion.
Second,
Second by Janice. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Reg Foster votes aye.
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
Hey, Kirk, aye.
Ed Scheidler, aye.
And so it passes unanimously, 5-0. All right. Do we want the next one here?
The next one is for the approval of the 5-year plan for, just to point out, 2021, there were no changes on it, so, but the next items are to approve a 5-year plan for 2022 through 2026. And again, in each year, there's been some repositioning preparation money put in, and other items that were already on our 5-year plan. And that the shed replacements get put back in there, the driveways at High Rock, and the paving here is also in the mix as well. That's under 20.
Yes.
That's what, on page 95, right?
Carol? And another.
Page 95 is That's the original plan that we showed in January, and this is now the end is where we're passing. Or looking to pass the amended agreement, the amended 5-year plan.
Is that the
So
one?
That's the one we sent out.
So do you want me to display anything here?
Yeah, that same document.
All right, let me go back up here. You're just gonna have to tell me which pages you want me to display here. So share. So I'm now on page 3 of 7 here. So this shows budget year 2022 here. Right? Is that the one you want?
2022, yeah, this is, we've changed a little bit in that the shed replacements and operations will be moved from the original that we had talked about in January. And again, the repositioning preparation has been money on that year, put in the budget. So
it's these two are being proposed for to be repurposed, and the wording, it's not working for me to highlight it, but these two, the 10 and the 41, is that what you're saying?
They're highlighted.
Yep.
those have been removed from the budget. This has not been approved previously, 2022.
Right, that's
So
right.
this is a new
That's right.
proposal.
It's a new
So
proposal.
it's not changing anything, it's
Yeah.
just approving the 3 items under the capital fund. The 173,492 for roof replacement. The 191,869 for repaved roads and sidewalks here at Seabeds and Cooks and Captain Robert Cook Drive, and the repositioning preparation.
Right, we won't earmark High Rock Estates shed replacements or operations. We will put that in as maybe RAD or something to hold that place. We still have to budget the fund out. It has to balance out rather. But we won't have High Rock Estates and shed replacement listed or the operations listed as well. We'll change that to RAD or something to that effect that is acceptable to HUD.
One of the little tricks on these 5-year plans, it's not a trick, it's practice, is that if you carry a line item, sometimes you just put, $1,000 in it, and that way, if there's money that doesn't get spent somewhere else, you can have that flexibility to move it into that year because because that item's
Yeah.
in the line item without doing a significant amendment.
That's it. And you do have to balance the budget. If your appropriation is 431, it has to balance to 431. 416, it has to balance to 416. So that's that.
Yeah.
So do you want to go through the other future years now?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
We move to the next page of 2023.
Okay, so we're looking at budget for year 2023 here.
So we just received that grant notification of $431,209. Again, you'll see it's 2 items that we're looking at under activity, and that would be the part 2 of the repaving of roads, sidewalks, and parking lots here on this site, and also the repositioning preparation at 141,000. That totals out to 431,209. On the original plan that we offered, we talked about more siding, but that will be taken care of under the repositioning and the PRI renovations that go on, and the shed replacements we're pushing down the line. And operations, we just took away operations to put it all under the other 2 items. The next page is now 2024, and this is now money that we don't know how much we'll get. They tell us to base it on the previous year's actual, so that's what we've done. But we won't know that probably until later in the year, much later in the year. So we've budgeted in there some roof replacement at High Rock Estates, more repositioning prep. High Rock Estates shed replacements, now we put them back in, because even if we eventually do a renovation up there, the sheds are in really deplorable condition, and we should start replacing them. They're outbuildings, so even if we were to renovate the individual bungalows, the sheds will survive.
Mhm.
And to start repaving driveways and walkways at High Rock Estates. And then we also brought in some money there for the operations, so that's our plan. This will probably change. The money will change because it won't be the same exact amount, but this is how HUD tells us we have to do it. So the year 24, 25, and 26 are really kind of
Guesstimates.
guesstimates, yeah, trying to be.
That equals a 5-year plan.
Yeah, that's why it's a 5-year plan. So we moved the year 2025. Again, we've added more roof replacements for High Rock Estates, more reposition prep, more shed replacements that should cover what would be left. And then the more repaving of driveways up at High Rock Estates. Again, we're working on this year's number 431,209, because that's all that we can guess at. It could go up, it could go down. It generally doesn't go down, but you never know on it. What they do. And 2026, again, we're looking to hopefully finish the replacement of roofs at High Rock Estates. We still kept in the repositioning preparation. Shed replacements, I'm sorry, that's another one. Shed replacements, I priced it out at about $3,000 per shed. Hopefully it would come in less, but public bid, you usually end up paying more. And they repave more driveways and walkways there, and again, operation. So again, these items will definitely change by then. And if the PRI goes as is planned, the last 2 years of this may never happen. Or just be limited, the amount will go down because it will just be for High Rock Estates. Because if Bridge and the best way of taking off of the RAD blend and taking off the federal rolls, and we would lose that funding going forward. So the last 2 to 3 years here, it's the best plan. It's a guesstimate, but again, some of those things may not happen. I hear you, Janice. I'm with you. I hear you.
I'm sorry.
Yes. No, I'm with
I
you on
think
that.
that was Rich.
Oh, maybe it's Reg, whoever, I'm with you on that.
I probably
I
started it
really
here.
And I checked the time at the same time.
It's been a long week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Roof replacements of High Rock. Are they on the duplexes or on the bungalows?
the bungalows.
Okay, the bungalows are gonna be replaced.
Well, we've got those people who have frozen up from my point of view here. How about you guys?
Uh-oh. Can you hear me, Reg?
I can. We are all logged in separately to the meeting, and they've frozen up here. So I will.
Eleanor, are you there?
Mhm.
Oh, God, we got a quorum.
I know,
offline.
right? I was just thinking that. Okay, let's just finish up this meeting ourselves here.
Oh, wow. This is a
I don't think
first.
the new board policy covers this scenario here. Yeah, they just dropped here.
Something happened.
So and they didn't make me a host. So that's I'm. All right, let me call Cheryl.
Hi, Reg.
Hey, you just dropped here, but
Yeah,
we're still on. We're all talking to each other. We'll take a vote and approve everything else, and you guys can go home. Hey, we'll stay put. But when you come back, please make me a co-host, okay? Just so
You're a co-host,
you know.
okay.
All right,
I-
we're gonna
okay.
stay put here.
Stay put, okay.
Yeah, but we're all. Let's keep the line connection here, Cheryl. And why don't you try to log back in here?
Yeah, Steve is working on that now.
Yeah, is it the Seabed's internet that dropped you
Yeah,
there?
we have internet.
It says we have it. I have it on my phone.
Mhm. And guess what? All the attendees are on as well.
Wow.
Wow.
Your screen for us, it just
Well,
froze.
yeah, well, that's because you're not logged in and
We're not locked
and
in.
you didn't make me the co-host, so I can't, you know.
Are you
do-
blaming me, Reg?
No, no, I'm just saying, you know, share the love and share the power here.
Sure.
Connecting, yeah.
And we're recording, by the way, while we're doing this. So.
That's not gonna be fun when I do minutes.
But you can just, I don't think you have to record, 2 minutes of this part.
I can't pause the recording. Well, let's see if I can. I don't think so. Who knows? Pause. So they need. Okay,
Okay,
that's pretty
Great.
good. You know, we were talking earlier about I said something like, I think we've had everything possible that could go wrong in the last 3 or 4 board meetings, and silly me for saying that.
first, yeah,
Silly me.
Jinxed yourself.
All right, sorry. So why don't we pick up where we left off, which is I recollect that we just received the presentation of the capital budget changes for the 22 to 26 budget, the 5-year budget.
Which
And
may or may not happen.
and you know, they're placeholders in the outer years, and things will have to be changed as the, you know, actual PRI rolls out. But does anybody have any questions or suggestions for Cheryl or all of us, or should we proceed to a vote at this point since the hour is getting late here?
Proceed to vote.
Proceed to a vote.
All right, I hear consensus there. So I will ask one of the board members to make a motion to approve the 5-year capital plan. Oh, in the official language that Cheryl's going to give me here.
You got it. This is our
Yeah,
standard 5-year plan board votes on, and we'll submit it to her
and-
tomorrow.
Okay, and do I hear a second on that?
Second.
And who made the motion?
Oh, Janice.
Oh, it's okay, great. We will do, hearing no further discussion, we will do a roll call vote again. Reg Foster votes aye.
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
Jenny Kirk, aye.
Ed Scheidler, aye.
So that passes unanimously. What's our next item on our dual agenda here, Steve?
next item is just our bank issues, they're being kept there as a placeholder. I have nothing completely new to report. The transition is still going on to Needham Bank, and we'll keep it on the agenda to keep you updated. It moves slowly. And then we have just High Rock Homes, again, informational. There's an audit scheduled, the annual audit is scheduled for High Rock Homes for
Yes.
for next week.
Yeah, well, it's not, he's coming in tomorrow and he's wrapping it up by the end of the month. So we'll be done with the High Rock.
And the trustees are meeting on Sunday to go over their budget, which is gonna raise condo fees a bit, depending on what they vote on. Because there's a number of increases, particularly insurance and landscaping. So there's they're gonna have a choice to make on that.
Who's our current trustee of the board?
Vladimir.
On the board?
Oh,
No,
Of
The
the
High
board.
Rock Board, yeah.
so it's my understanding, I'm the trustee as the director, and that'll
Yep.
shift to Cheryl, so.
Yep.
Yeah, and then there's Vladimir is the lead, the residents, and Roland Jen, is it Jen?
Jen, yes,
Yeah,
Jen
also-
Hopkins.
Jen Hopkins. Yeah.
Super. If there are no further questions, let's move on to the next agenda item.
Next item is just, I'll let Cheryl talk if she likes, the Needham Housing Authority's 75th anniversary. I was remiss, it's 75 years in May.
Yes. Pursuant to a warrant signed by the selectmen on April 20th, 1948, that the inhabitants of the town of Needham qualified to vote in town affairs met in town hall in said town on Friday, May 7th at 7:30 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to skip to the point where they voted to, as an act of town government. Ooh, it's a lot of whereas, Article 1, to vote to organize a housing authority in the town of Needham. Under the provisions of the general laws chapter. So it looks like we are going to have an anniversary on Friday, May 7th, 2023, 75-year anniversary, Monday this year. I'm sorry, my silliness. Monday will be our official 75th year of having a housing authority in the town of Needham. And that's very significant. 75 years calls for celebration. So I'm sorry, Reg.
I was just going to say, I hate to be nitpicky here, but I think we were born 75 years ago. I think it's our birthday. Not, yeah, and I want a big birthday party. Thank you very much. But other than that, I support what you're saying here.
I think it's in keeping with everything that we're doing with the modernization, the preservation and redevelopment initiative and the repositioning of federal properties, to have a celebration now on, the enactment of the housing authority in Needham is a good way to go.
So May
So,
7th is a Sunday.
Okay.
No, it's
Yeah.
a Monday. Actually,
Monday.
May 6th is a Sunday, and we are going to have
Cinco de Mayo.
Fiesta
That's right.
de Norte
Yeah.
or Cinco de Mayo party.
Wait a minute, why does my calendar say May 6th is a Saturday?
So I don't envision that we're actually gonna have the anniversary on the date.
It is a Saturday. I'm sorry, Reg. It's a Saturday they're coming.
Right. Well, no, I'm just, I'm not sort of saying that, but I there's a save the date kind of thing that we need to do, which is where I was going with my comment.
Thank you.
And what date would you like us to save, or you don't know yet?
I don't know yet. What I propose is that we can have a committee, put a committee together to plan for a 75th anniversary party that could happen in the fall.
Warmer weather.
I'm sorry.
You probably want warmer weather, so it can be a
Outdoors.
celebration.
Well,
When I say the fall, I envision September. I should be more specific. I think that it would be nice to have an event in September commemorating the Needham Housing Authority's birthday in Needham. Yay.
All right.
so you're looking for a sense of the board? You're looking for volunteers? What?
Yeah, I'm looking for the sense of the board, and if they think that's a good idea, that we put together, the administration put together a committee. How does the board feel about that? Would the board like to sit on the committee? How do you feel? Is that too much work? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I think what Cheryl's asking for is a sense that the board supports it, because it will take some resources and that's what you want. You want to be able to come back to the board and say, we need this amount of money and stuff as well. This was as the plan, right? Is that?
I
That's,
think as board members, we have a responsibility to participate.
Yes, it seems so.
Not more than two, please. So
Exactly. And thank
I'm,
you for saying that, Commissioner Kirk. I agree with you 100%.
let's suggest that the sense of the board is full speed ahead, and maybe you could come back next month with some sort of more concrete plan or something, you know, or concepts or something like that. And we'll just have a regular agenda item to kind of, you know, touch base every month. Does that make sense?
That's great to have a standing agenda item and start to think about putting together a committee, reporting on that next month. And as Steve said, of course, it will involve resources and, you know, and we'll pull all of that together with committee work.
Great. And anybody have any good ideas, just send them and email them into Cheryl.
Okay,
Particularly if you want to be on the committee.
All right.
And the last item I have is the acting maintenance foreman memo that was in the packet. Right now with Gary's departure, the hiring and replacement is in process, but we're suggesting, proposing a $2 differential be added to our maintenance. He's a mechanic carpenter now, Greg Gillis, because he has taken the lead, working to make sure the guys are scheduled. We now have a full staff of 4 men, and he meets with not only Nate daily, but also Cheryl weekly, and to go over what's going on in maintenance. So he's taken a step up in responsibility, and you know, the $2 differential I think would be appropriate. So that's what I was suggesting to the board. I also note that even after hiring a new director of maintenance modernization, that foreman role probably should be memorialized at that price, at that cost.
$2 an hour.
They did additional, yeah.
Okay, any further questions about the executive director's reports, or shall we go on to the next agenda item, which is
We just need a motion.
agenda item D?
is he looking for a vote on that money?
Yes, because of the pay differential, we're looking for a vote.
I don't think that's enough money.
Well, it's normally the maintenance salaries are determined by the Department of Labor and Industries. And they give us minimums, but DHE looks at it as that's what we should be paying them. So this is in addition to that. Greg is the highest paid maintenance person right now, and this would just memorialize that. I just that's why I went to 2, but I'm open to other suggestions. Just I want it to go through our budget process cleanly. That would be the only thing for DHC.
Yeah. Well, if he's willing to take $2, I mean, I would ask for more if I was him, but
Steve, in the past, we didn't talk about this before, so you know, in the past we've treated things like this as you know, executive director information items to the board as opposed to things we vote on. But is this different in some way?
Only because of the money differential and because of the fact that the salaries are established by DHCD. We have a position called maintenance foreman in that schedule. It actually right now it pays 5 cents less than what Greg is making right now. Which doesn't make any sense, but that's why it's kind of trying to ease this into fit this into everything.
So
does
$2,000 per hour, is that what it is? $2 per hour?
Per hour, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah.
So if he works you know, 1,800 hours a year at full time, or maybe 2,000, because you know it applies to vacation pay and so forth, then this $2 an hour would be about a $4,000 annualized bump in his pay. Is that right?
Yeah, 4,000, yeah, almost $4,200. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to put it in context here. And he's getting
that sounds better, but
what is his current pay? You know, what's his hourly rate?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's in the I'd be guessing, I want to say it's in the $34 range. $36 per hour.
Okay, so this would be like a 5% increase or something like that, is, you know. Well, I would also say this is consistent with the you know, direction that we got on DHCD regarding an acting executive director, that, you know, there was a provision for a 5% increase if somebody steps in to that position that we discussed last month here. So I just put that piece of information out for us to consider. Any comments on that? On the recommendation of Cheryl and Steve here?
Makes sense to me.
Yep, sounds good.
Good. I think my thought is if I think we need to rely on Cheryl and Steve to determine what the right amount is to provide, you know, to be fair in this situation. So I'm in favor of it as well. So does somebody want to make a motion to approve this amount here?
I make a motion to approve of the $2 an hour increase.
Okay, do I
Second.
hear a second? A second by Janice. Any further discussion? I will call the vote. Reg Foster votes aye.
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Jan Spin votes aye.
Any Kirk, aye.
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Okay, and that passes unanimously. So we'll move on to item D on the agenda, the new executive.
Number 13, any other issues or
I'm sorry,
updates?
let me ask that again. Are there any other issues or questions?
I just think it ought to be in the minutes that we've had a development where the director of the after-school program has resigned, and that we need to address this issue. Cheryl seems to be doing that forthwith and come up with an immediate solution.
Okay. Thank you, Penny. Any other comments, or shall we move on? I think we're moving on. So item D, new executive director. Last month, as we all know, we appointed, after interviewing Cheryl, we appointed her as our new executive director. The packet went in. It was quite thick, and I again thank Penny and Ed for their assistance in pulling together certain elements of it here. I think it made a very strong recommendation to DHCD to approve this. And lo and behold, sometime today, it's been a blur today, but I received an email from Bob Pelletier, which I haven't responded to, our housing management specialist, with a request to make a minor change in one of the exhibits, the addendum. It's a wording change. I don't fully understand what it means, but it basically says that that's the addendum that said that she would be eligible for up to 5% COLA each year. And it wasn't a question about, you know, what we talked about, annualized or so forth, but it was saying that it couldn't be more than a certain amount tied to the increase in our annual. And so we've shipped this over to Jonathan Driscoll, our attorney, to provide advice on. I'm not sure there's anything, you know, to bring to the board's attention right now. Cheryl or Steve, would you agree with that? Are they there?
We're here.
No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't see the camera on my screen for some reason.
Oh, Cheryl's got the camera on her.
Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. All right.
I just would say, as I mentioned to the chairman earlier today about this, the wording is the first part of the wording is not a problem. The second part talks about limiting Cheryl's growth in salary to the annual. And about 4 or 5 years ago, DHCD themselves took the director's salary out of that calculation, and they do a calculation on the director, on what the directors are eligible to get. It's a formula. It's more generous in the annual in most cases, or virtually all cases. So I had a problem with that, but then it was pointed out it's a one-year contract, so I don't know how that language could survive the next one. But it doesn't seem that it would be, to me, it doesn't seem it would be fair to Cheryl to limit her to that growth when other directors may achieve a different growth because the formula. It should say that it would be tied to the DHCD executive director's salary formula. And that's something that they did in response to salary surveys that they had done.
So
that's-
in my reaction to receiving this without actually digging into the issue the way Steve described, and we will be doing that, was, oh, this is actually good. That, it's been it's been a couple weeks, 3 weeks, since I sent that packet in. And if they usually get back with everything they want to talk about, if there's, if this is the only thing they've gotten back, that is a good sign. But I can't report tonight for sure that it's a good sign. I just, this is the third or fourth time I've been through this. It seems to be a good sign, and it definitely is a sign that it's not buried in some stack of paper on Bob's desk, or stuck in some approval process above Bob, which is happens from time to time. So so stay tuned, and of course we'll let everybody know if anything important comes up between this meeting and our April meeting here. So that's the report. So yeah, I actually know, and just looking at the date, I should have researched this. I emailed this in on March 6th, and we are at March 16th, so it's 10 days. So that's actually very, very prompt turnaround on the part of DHCD, which I'm grateful for here. Okay. Moving on, if there's no further comments, status updates on the Preservation and Redevelopment Initiative. I don't think we need to get into it, but very deeply, but as a result of our February 11th decision to adopt what we came to know as Strategy 2, and that's written up in the minutes that Cheryl passed out earlier this evening. Cambridge Housing Authority is proceeding full speed ahead with that. And there's their report at the end of the packet there. Sorry, was there a question there?
No, sorry.
Little inside jokes, I thought.
All right, so there's the CPA public hearing last night that Penny and Ed attended in person, as Steve did, and I presented remotely again because I'm infected, or I'm possibly infectious. We got a lot of support and petition and people speaking in favor of our Linden Chambers proposal in particular. So that went well. I do need to report that not at the public hearing, but there's a lot of concern and pushback about approving the Linden and Chambers Street application for 1.165 million. And this has been at meetings that people haven't been attending, but you can certainly see it if you wish by looking at the YouTube videos that have been held, particularly the YouTube video on the 8th of March. So that was a week ago, basically. And there was a 5:30 p.m. CPC meeting to get ready for presenting to the FinCom at 7 o'clock that we encountered a lot of pushback on that funding proposal, not because it wasn't 100% supported, the concept of doing this and using CPA funds were 100% supported by both all the members of the CPC and all the members of the FinCom, but they thought that we were submitting this proposal prematurely, that the timing wasn't right. The timing would be better to submit it for fall town meeting approval and summer CPC consideration and recommendation, which would be an outer cycle, out of cycle application, which they do occasionally when the timing just doesn't work for something. And by the way, Steve attended this meeting. So Steve, I'm going to ask you to chime in. You were observer status at the 7 o'clock meeting there with the FinCom, and or were you? Maybe you weren't. No, I'm sorry. Maybe it was just Margaret that was there. So I'm not going to ask you to chime in. There are basically 5 or 6 reasons why this has been coming along, been sort of developing this way over the last month. And that really literally is over the last month, because we made our first presentation to the CPC on the Linden Chambers proposal on the 11th, no, on the 8th of February. So Wednesday the 8th, just 2 or 3 days before we did the repositioning special board meeting, and we made the presentation on the Seabeds and Cook proposal on February 15th. That one went well, and everybody's very supportive of that. But starting on that presentation on the 8th, we received a whole raft of additional questions, which we've been responding to. And as best I can summarize it for everybody, the one reason is that we're not far off along with the BH&A effort. The designer, architect, engineer, designer services contract really just kicked off in January, and it's just in the early stages of conceptual design. And we don't, and the original plan as represented a year ago was that we would have started it by September 2022, and we'd be sort of 5 or 6 months into it, and we'd be getting the zoning changes done, and we'd be shopping around the actual conceptual design and the schematic design and so forth. We're sort of 6 months behind schedule, and the reason for that is that DHCD delayed approving the RFP that went out to hire the firm. It was going to be approved sometime by June last year, and we were going to have our company picked by September, and then they would go forward and have 6 months under their belt. And so, for example, so we get questions like, well, we gave you $1.386 million last May, and you haven't spent any of it yet, which is, more or less true. We haven't actually submitted for any reimbursements to them because we just have been receiving the first invoices from BH&A in February, and we haven't submitted them to the town for reimbursement yet. The second reason is that they analyzed our financial situation and asked us a bunch of questions, where they determined that it wouldn't affect the project that we're doing right now, or the timing, or our ability to get financing, or anything else like that, if we did delay, to basically defer our application for money until approval by fall town meeting in early October 2023. And the reason for that is that we do have the ARPA funds, the $1.25 million ARPA funds that can be used for making sure that we complete all the work we need to do through that point in time and beyond. The funding we were asking for was instead of the ARPA funds, but they determined that we could do that, which is true. And that's the funds that Representative Garrett got for us here. The third thing that came out in the process is that we would be coming back to the well, actually, in fall town meeting to ask for another $2 to $3 million of additional CPA funding for construction. So the pro formas of the construction budget that has been run and rerun by the Cambridge Housing Authority, Margaret Moran, and shared with the CPC, that has said that the smallest project that we would be doing is about $37 million. And we would need upwards of about $5 million all in from the Needham CPA funds to make that work. And so we would be back asking for another tranche of money for the construction. And from their point of view, they'd rather see the project more fully developed, and especially with zoning figured out before, and give us all the money at the same time. And when I mentioned zoning, right now, we're just having our first staff-to-staff meeting with the planning department tomorrow morning, as opposed to having our first meeting in October of last year. And we're making some big decisions on whether we're going to seek the zoning changes that we need via town meeting approval, or we're going to seek it through doing a friendly 40B. There's no controversy, there's no confrontation or anything like that. We just haven't gotten it started yet. So that's kind of up in the air. Either way, the current zoning for Linden and Chambers Street does not permit us to do it would require us to have zoning changes and zoning relief if we are going to redevelop even just 152 units, let alone 200 units or 250 units. So that's another reason. Fourth
Reg,
reason,
excuse me, what time is that meeting tomorrow?
the zoning meeting,
Yeah.
I don't know, about 10 minutes, 10-ish, I think, 10:30 off the top of my head.
Thank
Why don't
you.
you ask? Okay, so shall I keep going? Then another thing that came up that was a surprise to everybody, myself included, which was the volunteers on the CPC put an enormous amount of hours into trying to understand the project, which is a major $37 million construction project, or maybe it's a $70 million construction project if we do a lot larger phase one option, and understand the funding and understand how tax credits work, and understand how doing a friendly 40B versus town meeting zoning works, and so forth and so on. And they started doing that pretty diligently in January, and they got overwhelmed by it. And they said, gee, this is not, the other project on last night's agenda, for anybody who stuck it out on, is refurbishing the tot lot at the DeFazio Fields. This is something everybody can kind of understand easily. And most of the projects of the CPC over the last few years have been of that nature, refurbishing a ball field or buying a piece of vacant open space land or something like that. And they felt they were not able to really, from a fiduciary point of view, really evaluate what we're trying to do, not because they're against it or anything like that, but just doing the kind of due diligence. And they sort of wound up saying, gosh, we need to hire some consultants to help, not some consultants, but somebody who understands affordable housing development, and somebody who understands tax credit financing, or how the financial, what we call the financial layer cake, how that gets put together, and is that believable, and so forth. And given the housing authority hasn't even spent the $1.3 million we approved last year, and not that we don't believe that they got delayed by DHCD, we believe that, but they haven't. And given that it's not going to make any difference, it's not going to impede us in any way if they defer making any decision until this fall, and not that it's going to, and that this fall, we certainly are going to have a huge amount of additional concrete information. And that would give them time to bring this consultant on board. Maybe that's the best way to go. And so all of those reasons, I've been informally approached. And I said I had a board meeting tonight to bring this to the board's attention. By the way, this all happened in the last 48 hours in and around the public hearing. So that's why I'm kind of doing this extemporaneously tonight. But I've been approached to say that we think it would be a better thing for the housing authority to withdraw the Linden and Chambers application, before it is formally voted on by the CPC, which is it's currently scheduled for either next Wednesday, the 22nd, or next Wednesday, the 29th. With the opportunity to refile it, really, it would be quite kind of a different application. But it would be for the remainder of the money that we need to do the phase 1 project. No ironclad commitment that it would get approved, obviously, but it would certainly be they'd consider our refiling that would take place in July and August. Sort of targeted with early October town meeting approval if it makes it through the process, the out of cycle process. The out of cycle process is pretty much the same as what we've just been through for the last few months, except that usually there aren't any other applications that during that site. It's allowed for and it's permitted when there's exceptional circumstances for that to happen. Last time we thought about using it was when we had the seabeds ice dam problem in 2015, in March of 2015. And there was a period of time where we thought we needed to go get a sort of emergency allocation of CPA funds out of fall town meeting to get the problems fixed. But so it happens once every 2 or 3 years when something like this comes along. So that's more than I think anybody was expecting me to report tonight. It is. Let me take some questions and comments. Go ahead, Steve.
Any has the questions?
If the CPC group wants to become better informed, that would be one reason to put it off until the fall. Is that right?
Yes, right.
And why wouldn't Cambridge Housing be the ones, the consultants, to inform them
Well,
and
so
educate them?
that
Why do
may
they
be,
have to hire somebody else?
so that is what I thought initially too. And so when I say it was a surprise to me, when this started to come out a month ago, I was saying, we've got the best people on the planet working for us, collectively the town. And they wrote the book on this. They're nationally recognized as such and so forth and so on. And what I encountered is something that I encounter every once in a while, which is the Needham Housing Authority isn't considered, if you ask people bluntly, isn't necessarily considered part of town government, even though we just talked about our birthday coming up. And, if we were ever dissolved, it would be dissolved by town meeting. We're sort of a stepchild of town government, because I've always struggled with this myself. And the best I can explain it is that it's because the town meeting doesn't ultimately control our budget, I guess. I can't really explain it, but it's always been out there. And maybe something happened a long time ago in Steve's era when that to cause that to happen. I don't know, but we ran into that and said we need to independently vet this. And part of it was it's not a fault thing, but part of it is also that we aren't 6 months further down the road in the project than we thought we would have all these things figured out. So the zoning is going to be done this way and everybody's on board with that. And here's the buildings that are going to be built that are going to be 3 stories or 4 stories, and they're going to look like this. And here are all the tenant meeting sign-offs that, showing people are delighted to do that, even though obviously we did a good job last night with our petition, but it was, theoretical. And oh, by the way, we've had the meetings with the Linden Street and Maple Avenue, Maple Street neighbors, and we're 6 months behind where we said we were going to be a year ago, and that undermines our credibility. And
I don't understand why that would mean not using Cambridge Housing. It's like reinventing the wheel to get another whole consultant in to get up to speed to learn all this.
I have
They've
said
got all the
that.
information.
I have said that exactly.
Well,
And
also what about Karen Sonnenberg? She knows a lot about this.
so
sort
they
of stuff.
checked with Karen Sonnenberg, and she said, this is too big and complicated for me. You need to go hire somebody who really understands doing housing, public housing development or redevelopment. So, she kind of does studies, like the way how she's worked with them in the last year of the housing plan, but she doesn't, she kind of demurred on that. And so,
So I guess will they commit to hiring a consultant to advise them in the, if we,
I've
in the
been,
months between now and when we resubmit?
I've been told that's in the works, but they're not going to give me a written commitment, if that's what you mean by that question. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I would hate to have us pull our application and then get to the fall and then they'd say, oh, well, we haven't hired a consultant yet to look at your. That's-
Yeah, I would hate that too, but I'd hate to be where they put them in a position of publicly turning us down.
Yeah, no, I agree about that, but I guess, I get to that. I understand they need to do their due diligence and such. But I guess I also feel like, hopefully that would not, at the end of the day, be, it's a reason not to fund this. Oh, the fact that it's too complicated in
Oh,
that,
no.
I think that, we're the best positioned entity in town to be developing deeply affordable housing. And obviously they need to kick the tires and such and make sure that we're moving forward with it.
And it's not for lack of effort. So I'm not here to report that they didn't, the 3 liaisons that were assigned to us didn't spend a lot of time meeting offline with us and with Cambridge Housing Authority. And but it is, on the other hand, I have to admit, it's really complicated. We've spent how many 5 training sessions trying to understand, what's going on with just the repositioning aspect of it here. It seems like voodoo, is like somehow we're going to come out of, we're telling them we were going to have $2.7 million of additional money coming from this rad Section 18 conversion. And oh, by the way, that's going to throw off all these Faircloth units, and that's going to support the Linden Chambers project and be an essential component of making the financing work. And we've spent 5 special board meetings, understanding that and getting training on that, again, 2020 hindsight, I think I wish they had realized this in December, but, and I wish the 2020 hindsight that we weren't 6 months behind, because I think if we were much riper and better developed in terms of the project being further along, and we hadn't said that we were going to be that way by this time this year. In fact, even when we put the applications in, we were doing the applications and preparing them in September and October last year. All along, we thought, gee, we're going to be going by December and we'll be 4 or 5 months into this thing, instead of just barely sort of getting off the ground here, which is where we actually are.
I just
But-
want to put my 2 cents in, Reg. I'm kind of not happy about the whole situation of Linden and Chambers being put on the back burner now. As I recall, 2 years ago, there was so much support for Linden and Chambers to be done over. Everybody was so happy that that was gonna happen for those residents. And now that they, the town has to pay for it,
Well,
see you
No.
later.
especially after that, I had a really, I'm going to use a very highly technical psychological term that I've used in my entire life, of how I felt after, the two back-to-back meetings on the 8th. And I was really bummed out. I came home just going, God, this is just too hard to do here. And maybe it is the way you said, Janice, maybe there are forces, NIMBY forces out there that don't really want this project to happen. I was really, but I'm really, I've talked to people on a one-to-one basis, and I know a lot of these people, and every one of them has said, with complete genuineness, in private and in public, we really want to make this project happen. We really, we really support it. It's number one priority in the housing plan for Needham, the official housing plan that was just approved by the select board and the planning board unanimously last month. But we're struggling. These are all volunteers, most of them. There's no staff member. There's no towns. That was another point that came up. Who's in charge of paying attention to this for the town? I mean, who working for Kate Plaisir is doing this? Where is the PPBC, the Public Building
Management.
Yeah,
Permanent Public Building Committee.
where-
PBBC.
who's doing that function? And we're telling them you're going to be giving us $6 million for the larger project. We're going to be giving us $6 million of CPA funds all in. That's not $50,000 for a tot lot, at DeFazio Field. That's the kind of thing that we've been approving. New playground that everybody can understand. CPA money for a new playground at Newman School. Everybody looks at the playground. We all have kids. The thing is a antique and needs to be made safe for the kids. People can deal with that, but this is really complicated. So I'm here to say that we had Cheryl, and this is my blur of meetings here, but Cheryl and Steve were at a meeting. Was it yesterday or the day before, where we discussed this with the Cambridge team, and we did a readout. It was the first time we had a chance to get together and sort of do a complete readout of all the feedback we were getting. And Cambridge is very familiar with this because we keep getting, every time I turn around, I get another half a dozen or a dozen questions to be answered. And so our packets of Q&A that we've done for the committee is about 30 pages of Q&A for both projects, just about, more for Linden Chambers. And we keep turning it around properly. And, every time we explain something in more detail, there's more sort of discomfort that they're just really not on top of it. And human beings being what they are, they like us, they trust us, they support the project, but if they can't themselves kind of confirm or have some expert confirm that it's everything is okay. Yes, the Cambridge Housing Authority is the certainly we know them of them as a sort of national leading expert, but they don't know that. And
Find out.
and
Let them
then
look
there's
it up
this
and
sort of-
find out, for heaven's sakes.
And then there's this stepchild, with this thing where I don't know where it comes from. I asked Penny and Ed, I was not Ed, but Penny and Steve and Cheryl, why the heck why do I feel like that? What Jon Snow, I am Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, why am I this sort of, person up in the northern part, struggling with keep the hordes away from the, and not a full-fledged member of the royal family of Needham here. I don't know what the answer to that is. That's a rhetorical question. I don't think we should be answering that question in public anyway, so.
I mean, I
But-
guess I assume the CPC has money to hire consultants with.
They do, yeah, and that's what they're talking about doing, yes. They have a ton of money to do it. But I think
Good.
it's all part of the process of realizing, over the, starting with that first presentation on the 8th of February, went into the wee hours of the night on Linden Chambers. And the reason I think the seabeds ones are a lot easier is because we're saying, look, we just need the $242,000 and we don't expect to ever come back for any more money. Whereas with this one, we're saying, gee, we need, we're coming back for $3 or $4 more million potentially on top of what you've already given us, which, by the way, we haven't started spending, yet. I'm trying to report honestly and accurately in as balanced way I can where things are at.
And
And-
have they expressed any concerns about our capacity to do?
They have, yeah.
Yes.
They said that, we got, we're small to medium-sized housing authority. We are ourselves an Amander board, we're doing a turnover of executive directors again, even though Cheryl is very well known in town, so that's a benefit, So yeah, there's some of that too. So
Penny has her hand up, sorry.
go ahead,
I'd like
Penny.
to make a motion that we keep the application in for the spring.
And you want to explain why you're making the motion?
Yeah, because I think there is a factor there that they're putting it off. They can learn between now and when it has to be voted upon.
No, it has to be voted out in a week. Did you mean put it off until the fall? You said spring.
No,
Okay,
no, do not put it off.
they're
Keep the
not going to
application.
be learning anything more, I think, at this point. Steve and Cheryl, you heard the meeting that we had yesterday with the Cambridge consultants. Do you have anything you can help me with? Did I overlook anything or misrepresent anything?
No, I just, what I would say is I'm not a board member, but I agree with Penny's motion because I've been told by people in town to just tell us you need it. And prove those you need it, and the committee is very favorable towards housing. They're looking to double the amount of housing funds from the CPA that goes into housing. That was mentioned last night. They're going from 11% to 22%. If they vote that way, so they are supportive. I just think it's a little bit of cold feet, and they just need a little. I would, personal opinion as a resident and as a housing professional, I would keep their feet to the fire. That's mine. That's only me. I'm not a board member. And I will vote.
The application that's in asks for the first part. It doesn't ask for all that money. So they can vote for that first part and then they can do all the educating of themselves as they want until the fall meeting where they will give us the rest of the money.
So what, the first part, yeah, I can, you mean the part that we already have before them here is what you're saying,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Yep.
I guess one question I have is, I know that, so in that part, that part of the reason why we're asking for as much there as we are is because of cost increases. Is that right? Isn't that right, Reg?
So there's two reasons. Yeah, there were cost increases and then and it's additional scope. I have a chart I can show you here that I prepared.
I guess my only concern I do agree with the holding their feet to the fire and, if they vote, well, of course, we don't have a local paper anymore, but anyway, if they vote against it, it's not a good look for, the not approving affordable housing. But I guess I wonder, what is that if we, would it be such that because we're 6 months behind where we thought we would be, that when we need the money that we might actually need more money than we're requesting now because of cost increases between now and when we might be needing the money?
That's kind of a hidden concern. Yeah, the cost might go up again and,
Well, of course.
But so then would it be bad that we, like, say we put in the application now and they give us what we want now, but then we, because of where we are in the time frame, we can't actually spend it until whatever, I don't know, the fall. But then by then the cost has gone up more. So then when we
But
would
all
have,
the more reason, Ellen, why we should keep it in for the spring, I think. Because doesn't look like things are really gonna go down. You know,
but I'm just wondering if in the fall, then we would put in, depending on what the cost increase situation was, that maybe we would even need to put in for more than we're putting in for now. I mean, aside from the additional amounts to do the construction.
that's a possibility, I would say.
So, can you see that? So this is,
Mhm.
Yeah.
this is the amount that was approved for last year here. You know, and it covers this much of the project here. And this is the amount that we're asking for this year. And this is the rest of the design phase that takes us right up to this construction phase right here. And it consists of, going back a page here. It consists of, this column here is what we asked for last year, adding up to 1.386. And then this is what we're, and then we signed the contract with BH&A and said, okay, we now know what it costs all the way through the end of the design phase. We just did the first half of the design phase, speaking roughly, and it's this much. It just says 1.2, but it's really 1.1 here. So the total amount for the design phase is 2.6 million. And the reasons for the increased costs, one is that they came in at $400,000 more. I'm not going to be able to highlight this, so I'll just use my cursor right here. They came in at $400,000 more than what we estimated it was going to be at this time last year, but that's fixed price, by the way. And these items, I'm not going to go in detail in the length of the night, but these other items are additional cost and scope. And they're going, if we look at this, we're asking for the funding for the design phase here, but we can use our ARPA funds to cover this cost, and they can just make it, and we're coming in for another big slug of money here for construction. Why don't we do it all at once in the fall? So that's where their thinking is at. And, again, we're just trying to convey too much information for tonight here. Let me just come
And that
back.
may be more reason for them to turn us down, seeing where it's gonna be a big slug of money.
Well, again, I think that genuinely there's a lot of strong support, but I think that the killer thing was they put in all the volunteer hours they can, and they can't understand it. And, they don't have a confidence in recommending it. And, if that had been perceived, 2020 hindsight wise in December or January, and there was some independent expert that was telling them, yeah, this is all on the up and up, that would be one thing, but we're not in that situation. And there's this sort of them and us relationship where we're part of the town, but we're not part of the town. I don't know how to fix it at this point. I think that we have two scenarios out in front of us. One is to keep going until we get voted down by the CPC, and I'll work hard to get as many votes as we can. We might get a 5-4 vote. There are 9 members on it, so it might be a split vote kind of thing. And then we have to get through the FinCom, and Steve knows some of the members on the FinCom pretty well, and they pride themselves with their and properly so. I'm not criticizing them. very, very fiscally conservative. And so if CPC goes in with a split vote and you know, we succeed with that, they are very easily could not recommend it. And then we would be presenting, you know, not a united front to the town meeting, and that would lead to, you know, challenges getting it approved.
If
You
we
know.
get turned down in the spring, can we re-present in the fall? For the big
Good
slug?
question. I know that certain other things, I don't know if it applies to the CPC, but if we get turned down, you can't reapply for 2 years.
Oh,
No, but I don't know if that applies to CPA funding articles. That's a good question.
oh,
But here's the thing, you know, on the other hand, you know, we had our initial presentation with the planning board and the select board. And, you know, we're doing the Board of Health in April, and, you know, and Ed was on the, you know, housing plan committee. And, you know, I think can testify that there was a lot of support. We have a lot of support in what we're doing here. But, you know, we've sort of, you know, if we want to be self-critical and, you know, we failed to win everybody over, and partly it's because DHCD, I think, delayed us for 6 months. So we're just at the very beginning of building the case for this is a beautiful project. It's going to do wonderful things for the town of Needham, for everybody who has friends, relatives, and neighbors, and, you know, people they know that need deeply affordable housing. I think there's a lot of, I've never seen the support as good as it is here. But it's not my decision to make. You know, coming out of yesterday's discussion, is, you know, it's not Cambridge's Housing Authority's decision to make. You know, it's, I think there's one of 3 things that we can do tonight. One is to just stay the course. You know, I don't need a vote for that. One of them is to withdraw the application with the expectation or commitment that we are going to refile it in the fall for fall approval. And the third thing is to say, you know, this is too much information at 10:05 at night, and maybe we need to meet about this again before next Wednesday's CPC meeting. You know, and people need to think about it. I haven't sent you out the 30 pages of questions that we've been asked, you know, before now, but it would sort of, you know, from just the tenor and type of questions that were being asked, you can see that. You haven't had a chance to watch the 5:30 CPC meeting last Wednesday, a week ago, where they just, it all came out in public meeting, everything I've kind of summarized for you. And and then the 7 o'clock FinCom meeting, nobody except me was, I guess, there. And so the third option is we don't have to decide to do anything one way or the other tonight. But I do need to go in to next Wednesday's CPC meeting with a direction of this board. And we could schedule another you know, special board meeting on Monday or Tuesday after you have a chance to look at, you know, it wouldn't take you long. I mean, it's not the homework that needs to be done to get the tenor of what's going on. Wouldn't take long. And by the way, Peter Pinkator, who is our former chair, who's a super strong supporter of what we're doing here, I think we all know that, you know, is basically said in public at both the CPC meeting and the FinCom meeting last Wednesday, that, you know, there's a lot of doubts on the part of the CPC whether we're, you know, our proposal is ripe enough to be approved by the CPC, let alone by the FinCom. He said that in public on last Wednesday, and he said it in public again Wednesday at 5:30 the CPC meeting, and again Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And then I went home and did my bummed out thing. Then I recovered. I bounced back. So
I have a question, or I have a comment. Since there is doubt on their part, and we are the beggars, I lean toward pulling the application and reapplying for fall town meeting.
mhm.
To, I think, right, if we start pushing them and there's not 100% confidence, that might be a wrong move for us.
Mhm.
Is there a guarantee it'll go on fall town meeting?
I can't hear
Is there a guarantee it'll go on fall town meeting? That's the.
you. Ask Rich that.
Well, I think we not only have to have a guarantee that they would consider it in the fall, but that they would meet a deadline of becoming educated
Mhm. Well, so
by
we
the
can,
time that takes place.
we can do that, and we know whatever happens would be pursuant, whatever we decide would be pursuant to a letter that, we would draft and send, to them for, as an input to the Wednesday, the 22nd meeting. So I'm listening to this, I'm listening to myself, trying to represent all sides here. And I'm realizing that my opinion is that the rest of the board members, with all due respect to Ed's opinion and Penny's opinion and Steve's opinion and Janice's opinion, you don't have you haven't got all the facts, so that you can apply your own judgment to it. And I think I would feel most comfortable if people can do this in their schedules, to doing a Tuesday special board meeting, so we have enough time to notice this. And I will, first thing tomorrow morning, send out very simple documents, the YouTube links, and without, I know exactly when this all broke out in both meetings, so I can give you a timestamp. Don't bother to listen to this first part, and then just listen to this 10-minute period it'll be 20 minutes maybe at the end of the CPC meeting, and it'll be 20 minutes at the FinCom meeting. And I'll also give you these huge, amazing, incredibly professional Q&A documents that the Cambridge Housing Authority has been turning around. And every time I turn around, I get, oh, here are 10 more questions we forgot to ask, so that's all there. And then we could reconvene and make an informed decision about this. Does that make sense to everybody?
I go for that.
Okay, let's get our calendars out right now, so we,
Yeah, really. What's next Tuesday?
So next
21st.
Tuesday is the 21st.
I have an appointment.
And let's see, 48 hours notice is Tuesday, unfortunately. So that's what we're talking about here. And I could do any time myself. So Eleanor, let's go with you first, because you're the working stiff on the board here.
Let's see. I can't do between 11 and 12:30. But otherwise could do it by Zoom.
Yeah, no, well, everything will be by Zoom. Fortunately, we can still do that.
I know, right?
What about a 1 o'clock meeting?
That's going to be hard once we switch. I mean, once that ends, because like the evening meetings, once a month, that's doable. But like those quick special meetings that we've been able to have by Zoom, we won't be able to do anymore.
Yeah, well, we can always say, hey, well, I guess if we're not part of town government, then the policy doesn't apply to us, right?
There you go. Adopt us or leave us alone.
But anyway, let's not go there, although it has occurred to me here. So what is your optimum time, let's say, for, I don't think we need more than an hour on this, once everybody's done their homework. And I'll try to write up a draft letter that we might send you know, if we did
Well, maybe,
withdraw.
um,
The
well,
first
so
look at.
I guess maybe like 4 o'clock or so. I don't know if that works.
Good for me. How about everybody else?
4 o'clock?
4 o'clock.
On
Well,
Tuesday?
You don't need me, but I will be at a national conference in Washington. And we have our Board of Governors meeting at 4 to 6:15, so I wouldn't be able to make it, but you don't need me.
We
Sure.
definitely need you, Steve, you know.
Could you
but-
make it at 3, Eleanor?
Yeah, I could do it at 3.
3's good.
Or
How
you
about
can't do
you,
that
Steve?
either?
I have meetings from 2:30 to 6:15 on Tuesday.
Okay,
Well, I can do it between 12:30 and 2:30, sometime in there.
I was suggesting 1 o'clock.
It'll be 1 o'clock.
all right.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock it is. Okay, so let's everybody put it in their calendars, and Steve and Cheryl will need to get a posting out for this, okay? For tomorrow. Okay. So we move on from that agenda item. We have status updates on various internal initiatives. Is there anything important that our esteemed executive management wants to say, or anybody wants to ask about?
We've already covered F3.
Everything else is moving along. The paving project is our top of priority at this point, to get that out for bid. So we hope to do that during the next week. The TVs, we talked about cameras. And I think that's it. The surveys we talked about last time.
Okay,
I have one item of business under new business for you.
Yep.
Just came in today. Under number 4, NHA pay and compensation study.
Yes.
I have a proposal from NARO to do the study, salary comparability study, in the amount of $3,995.
4,000.
4,000, yeah.
All right, so the context for this, just to refresh everybody's memory, is I took a national NARO course in PHA compensation policy, which I found extremely useful. It was sort of accidental that I was taking it because it popped up and I thought it was useful. But at the time, it was extremely useful because we were in the executive director hiring business. We would just lost Gary to higher wages. And, there are other reasons for him to move. And one of their big recommendations is that we should be doing a compensation study every 2 or 3 years as a small housing authority, especially because we live in a high compensation area, a very high cost of living area. And there are some private consultants that do this, and there's also National NARO has a consulting division that will do this for us for NHA. For now, we learn $4,000, and I wanted a sense of the board to see if we could authorize Steve and Cheryl to go ahead and pursue getting that done and seeing where we might be really out of whack that would cause us problems in terms of losing good people in the future. And it's not just executive directors, it's all the leadership positions, it's Nada's position and so forth. And I recommend it highly after going through this training that we do this. And
I
$4,000
second.
I make a motion to authorize that expense.
I second.
Okay, great. Steve, is there anything you want to add about having National NARO's consulting division working for us?
They have a very robust division of professionals. The person doing this is a past president of NARO that works with the professional development and consulting division now, and she's excellent. And I didn't ask for anybody in particular, I just asked for a proposal. and the sales rep got back to the proposal. I would have full confidence in Ms. Shaw to.
And I
do
think
it.
she was the one doing the training too. I thought she was quite impressive. All right, I will put this to a vote if there's no further discussion. Reg Foster votes aye.
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
Hey, Kirk, I.
Ed Stradler, aye.
Ed's voting with his feet here, I can see. So,
Yes.
and that passes unanimously. I think we're at the end of our agenda. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in.
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
And do I hear a second?
Second.
And everybody can say aye at the same time. 1, 2, 3.
Aye.
Aye. See, we had a roll call voice. Yeah, right. All right. Have a nice evening, everybody. See you
Just a
next
reminder, we'll be
Wednesday
chasing,
at 1 o'clock.
we're chasing,
Good
we'll
night.
be chasing signatures tomorrow.
And I will get that cheat sheet out tomorrow with the stuff that you need to do wiser. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Night, everybody.
Take care.